I'm gonna interrupt Pam because we need to get her started. Can we take a picture? Yeah, give me the camera. Thank you. Hang on, let me grab my camera. Yes, that is.
Sorry. Did you want me to do your next slides?
I can play. Sorry. Is it just the up button?
It should be good practice.
Everybody that stands over there is usually.
Let me check it real quick.
Yeah, you too. So, you're actually the Cali PA, not the water board. Yeah. One more picture. Hey, thank you so much. All right, let's get you started. I want to make sure you have your nice to meet you. We'll talk. Yeah. So, you have been turning on in your staff. Okay. I don't know if you still have it. I will be going to the back of the room with a picture of these markers. And then when you have. Yeah.
Roberto Rodriguez, we met a long time ago. How you say hi? Roberto. I was torn.
I'm going to try to be done by the 15 minutes so that we can have you.
Forward and backwards.
How are you doing?
It wasn't on, that's why it wasn't. They got me.
That's important.
Oh,
There it is.
there you go.
All right, so forward is this one.
Yeah.
Hi.
Good to see you. Surprised to see you here, but happy to.
So
Yeah,
just
just,
but it's not showing the picture.
Well, and then you're good.
Yeah.
It's more the fact that you share your screen. You can open it up and all share your screen. You too.
I see a couple tribal members. Shall we wait a few minutes?
Yeah.
Most of us CPA.
Now you just switch over to the other screen.
And there's not a session after mine, right? On the schedule, it says.
There's not one in this room after you, but there are other sessions that are
Oh,
happening.
right.
So they'll still, yeah.
It's 3:30 to
20.
Don't worry, I'm not a professional.
Oh, was that the yellow? Because my presentation disappeared.
Yeah, it did something weird, so.
And just know there are people online, so you will want to use your mic.
Oh, okay.
And you can take that mic off if you want to walk around.
Yeah. We ready?
It's showing.
Good afternoon. We ready? Here.
And the folks online can see the PowerPoint too, right?
Yes.
All right, awesome. So good afternoon, I'm Jennifer Carr. I'm the administrator for the Division of Environmental Protection for Nevada, NDEP. So it's nice to see a few tribal folks here with us this afternoon, as well as others that I have grown to know and love over the years, and new faces that I've met today. So it's a nice mix. Thank you. I think it's really interesting that the title of this whole conference, the week, is "This Land We Love," and my time in Nevada is just a speck in the continuum of time that people have been in Nevada, but it's very much a land that I love. I've been there for about 30 years. Again, very small span of time compared to many others. But in that 30 years, I've spent a lot of time out in Nevada at our state parks, in our BLM lands. And I find that land itself very restorative, and I get a lot from being out there, and I truly appreciate the lands of Nevada, like I said, that I've grown to love. So I wouldn't propose to say that I have anywhere near the deep connection that other folks in the room would have to Nevada, but I do love it very much. And so we're all on the same side and on the same team, and I bring that love of the land with me to work every day. And so I think that matters. So, all right. So today, mainly what I'm going to do is click through slides. Or you can. Good afternoon. Come on in.
It's going.
Is it? Okay. All right. Okay. When I was preparing for the idea of the conference with Cliff Benuelos, we talked about, things that I could do and share with you today. And what we settled on started with a discussion about the org charts and where NDEP fits in state government. And it's blossomed into what I'm going to provide, which is really a general overview of the division. And I thought it'd be important, not only because my relationship with the Nevada tribes is new as the administrator, because I've only been in this job since March, but although I've been with the division for like 27 years. I thought it'd be good to set like a baseline understanding of what we do, make sure everybody is using a common vocabulary and an understanding of what we do, and then we can build on our conversations from there. So just the most overarching statement for the division is our mission statement, which is to preserve and enhance the environment of the state in order to protect public health, sustain healthy ecosystems, and contribute to a vibrant economy. As we all know, protecting public health and sustaining healthy ecosystems are really inextricably linked, but we do separate them out for various reasons within our mission statement. Our agency has 11 bureaus. We have 3 boards and commissions, and I have, as of most recent legislative session, now 280 employees. Positions, I have about 240 employees. So. Okay, I am still going to just allow you to, I'll just let you know when we can change this. Okay, so where do I fit? I fit, the governor is at the top. Then below that is our Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Director, James Settlemeyer. I have a DCNR Deputy Director by the name of Chad Stevens, who I report to directly. Cliff Benuelos is off to the side. That looks a lot like Burning Man. It's really artistic. And then in a minute, we'll look at all of the 11 divisions that I have within NDEP. So again, common for vocabulary, DCNR is our Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. It includes many agencies, including state parks, my division, forestry, the Water Resources Division that does water rights, our Natural Heritage Program that catalogs species. And we're all in the same building, which is really neat. So it's important, I think, for you to realize that DCNR is a very broad department within the state of Nevada, and I'm just one piece of it, but we all meet regularly as division administrators every other Monday. We have a department meeting with the administrators. So I'm constantly in contact with my counterparts in the other parts of the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. So, and in a minute, that's okay. We'll dig a little deeper into my org chart. So we're on the next one. You didn't get very far behind. You're good. No, you're okay. Things happen. We roll with it. It's not a problem. All right. So this is basically the division. Cliff and myself are up at the top. Cliff has got that little bubble off to the right that helps me in an overarching capacity as our tribal liaison to the entire division. He actually is an employee of the Intertribal Council of Nevada, funded by EPA, and has space in our building. So it's a nice joint effort. I have 3 deputy administrators, and the bureaus are broken down. If you can't read that very well, it's okay. They're just the names of the bureaus themselves. I haven't put the names of all the people because all that information is available on our website. If you ever needed to contact anyone in particular, it's all there with emails and phone numbers and everything. Or you can contact me and I can make sure, or Cliff, and we can get you in touch with the right people. So next slide, please. All right. I wanted to include a couple of goals and challenges in this slide because these were items that I actually pulled from a presentation that was done for our Nevada legislature by my predecessor, Greg Lovato, right before he left state service. And the first one may not seem quite as relevant, the goal of improving agencies and streamlining processes to reduce and or eliminate backlogs. How does that relate to the tribes? Well, I kept it in this presentation because I wanted to just convey the idea that if we get more efficient, we can hopefully create more time and more meaningful opportunities to engage with all of the folks that we work with the tribes, instead of constantly running around like chickens with our heads cut off trying to make do. So the more we can become efficient, I'm hoping the more time we have on our hands to be able to engage more deeply and more meaningfully. The second goal shows our commitment to the tribes, just very clearly for ongoing engagement and interagency interactions. And then I included the challenge that's listed there too, because the challenges of external pressure, hey Cliff. The challenges of external pressures, new industries, population growth, economic conditions. I know these are all things that in rural Nevada that you're working through as well. And so I just wanted to recognize that I think it's a challenge for all of us. And it would be good to be able to have some conversations about these challenges with the tribes over time. Okay, this is the heart of what I wanted to talk about today, and then we'll talk more specifics with the different bureau programs in just a second. But I really wanted to focus on our general roles and responsibilities in environmental protection, because I think it's important, like I said earlier, to sort of set some base understanding and kind of ground rules on what we do and sometimes what we don't do. So just for a common knowledge, we are delegated to operate and enforce many aspects of federal environmental laws, such as the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Clean Water Act, the Resource Recovery Act, the Clean Air Act, brownfields. We have SRF, state revolving loan financing, and others. But a lot of what we do is delegated by the US EPA for us to manage in the state of Nevada. And a lot of those delegations go back to the 1970s. So we've been doing this for a little while. And then in Nevada, we implement the laws and regulations that generally adopt the federal rules by reference. But then we also have some additional Nevada specific laws and regulations that cover things like the mining program. That's not a federally delegated program. That's a Nevada thing. As well as our version of what we call the Chemical Accident Prevention Program, which I think has another another act number for US EPA, but that's basically the industrial uses of various chemicals that can blow up. So, so we have a chemical accident prevention program to protect both the workers and the surrounding residents. That's another state-only program. We also have a few other, various laws and regulations about like subdivisions and things like that that are Nevada specific that aren't necessarily federally delegated. So it's a whole mix of things that we do. But when Cliff and I were chatting about prepping for this, one of the things that we did talk about was the need for a common understanding in our roles in land use decisions and how critical that is to, again, this baseline discussion and what I want to talk about today. With limited exceptions, for things like regulations that have what are called siting criteria for some types of facilities. I'm not breathing. With limited exceptions, it's important, I think, for everyone to recognize that Nevada really does not get involved in land use planning stages of project development. And I think that's where we get crosswise a lot of times with certain entities that think we maybe have more of a role than we do. And so I wanted to touch on that today because we aren't involved with zoning. We're not involved with local planning. We're not involved with decisions that private landowners or federal landowners like the BLM and the Forest Service, we're not involved with decisions about what to do with their land and whether or not a project is right, quote unquote, right for the community or for the landowner. We are involved once a land use decision is made and then that project triggers our regulatory oversight under one of our either state or federally delegated programs. For example, we don't get involved in NEPA, with one small exception, if we're doing our own funding of a infrastructure project with our money. But for the most part, NEPA projects, we will provide data, but we don't have a role in the NEPA process. That happens long before we get involved. So while there is sometimes an opportunity for us to be involved early to provide some perspective about environmental regulation of a project. Usually by the time the project applicant gets to us, those land use decisions have been made by others, and we're brought in to ensure that the project is done according to our laws and regulations. We really don't judge whether or not a project is right for the community. That's really not our role. So with that as a baseline, where do we build up from there? I did mention some siting criteria. We do have a few regulations about like incinerators under the Clean Air Act or landfills or keeping wastewater plants out of the 100-year floodplain. There are a few siting criteria in our regulations that say where a facility can or cannot be. But those are not the prevailing laws and regulations that we work with. An example of a really good interaction I'm seeing right now in early engagement of the agency and the tribes is a new copper mine that's being proposed in Smith Valley. They have come to us, as I know that they actually went to the tribes first, even before they came to us, which I was like so thrilled to hear. But they have come to us telling us what they want to do. And they are asking some questions while they're going through the early planning stages of their project. They're early in the NEPA process, but I feel like they're one of the companies that have started doing it right and asking a lot of questions up front. Now, whether or not it's right at the end of the day, we'll figure that out, along the way. But I'm happy to see, at least in those land use planning discussions, that those chats are beginning earlier in the process. Okay, but at least maybe they're learning. So as we go through the rest of my presentation from here, I just really wanted to talk about the different bureaus, what we do, and then maybe provide some areas for discussion about where NDEP and the tribes can either have intersected in the past or could intersect in the future. And I'm really happy to have discussion either during the presentation or at the end about things that we're doing well or areas where we could use a little bit more attention in our engagement. So go ahead. All right. So quickly, just a couple of our air programs. The NDEP implements the Clean Air Act in all of Nevada except Washoe and Clark counties, Reno and Vegas, but we do work closely with them. I'm really happy to say that Nevada is in attainment for every single one of the Clean Air Act's criteria air pollutants, except for ozone in Las Vegas. So that's the one regulated air contaminant that is being worked on, but air quality is in attainment for the rest of the state, which is pretty remarkable. We have over 700 permitted sources, usually stationary sources, but then we also regulate construction dust control in other areas. And I was really happy to hear from my staff just like a month ago that EPA Region 9 had coordinated a call between the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe and our Bureau of Air Pollution Control because the tribe had raised concerns about the fact that the 30-day public notice period and comment period was really too short for them to fully work through a project and provide meaningful comments, and I get it. As a result of that conversation, the Bureau of Air Pollution Control is launching a new website. I'm not sure it's up and running yet, but they're going to post their air permit applications once they're deemed complete so that anyone, but the tribes in particular, have access to that information early in the process. So you have more than just the 30 days to read about the project, learn about the project, ask questions about the project, and then, just have more time. I thought, although I hadn't spoken with the chief of the air program, I thought there was a really great connection because when I attended the RTalk meeting in Reno, a number of the tribes conveyed to me when we were having a discussion about mining that you're simply seeking knowledge and understanding. And that takes time. So I'm really glad that we've got this new solution that we're going to try, see if it works, where the tribes can get access to these air permitting applications earlier in the process. So I would also note that our webpage also has an area where you can get electronic records. Mining and air in particular are out in front on the amount of records that are available electronically. So you can start to do research on Nevada's records from the comfort of your own home, which has been unique for us. And I'm really happy that the number of documents going into that system is increasing every day. So go ahead. All right. Air quality planning addresses items such as regional haze, greenhouse gas planning and reporting. The new climate pollution reduction grant is in this program. And they also do the Air Now forecast. We haven't had much fire so far this year, but when we do, smoke and understanding smoke and air quality is a really important thing. And so that Air Now forecast is done by our staff and posted every morning. This Bureau of Air Quality Planning adopts regulations and standards that then are implemented by the permitting side of the program. And then cases that warrant enforcement in the permitting program also come through an enforcement branch that sits within air quality planning. Go ahead. Notice the color scheme. The air programs are green. I'm not sure why, but it matches our logo. We've got green, orange, and blue in the logo. I don't know, green, healthy air promotes plant life, I guess. So their air is green, water is blue, and then land is orange. So we switched to the blue, the water programs. The Bureau of Safe Drinking Water regulates public water systems. Generally, this bureau doesn't have a lot of overlap with the tribes because, the drinking water systems we regulate are solely on non-tribal land and really don't have an impact across political borders. But I did have a few thoughts on some areas where drinking water and the tribes do overlap. One is that we do regulate a couple of schools that are off tribal land, but are largely tribal children, like Schurz Elementary is one of them. And we also keep an eye on duck water. It's an inactive public water system because it has less than 25 people there every day. It's a very small school. But we do, keep an eye on that one as well. And of course, Cliff helps whenever we have a need to interact. We also have helped each other during emergency response events. The Division of Emergency Management oftentimes will reach out to us if resources are requested. And then we work with Region 9 if we need to pull in emergency staff from Region 9. This program typically communicates with Carl Banks and Corrine Lai over the region for emergencies in particular. We have a lab certification program, and it's possible that tribal samples are sent to our certified labs. I would encourage you to do that and use Nevada certified labs for your monitoring data. We have a very robust lab certification program. I think it's one of the best in the nation. And it really helps to ensure that the data that's being produced is reliable and reproducible and really good quality data for anyone using that information. So if you want more information on our lab certification program, happy to provide it. And then, yeah.
One other thing you guys do is you offer training for people that have water facilities. You guys have coordinated with that with a couple of tribes.
So Cliff was mentioning training that we've coordinated on with tribes as well, which is, yeah, thank you. Really good point. We also have had various operator certification challenges, both on the tribal side and the private side. And we've been able to share information and sometimes operators. We've also coordinated with ITCA in Arizona. So there have been some ITCA certified operators that have helped some non-tribal water systems and vice versa. So that's been really cool. Okay. All right, water quality planning. Okay. This bureau does all of the stream and lake and spring sampling to gather data to assess the health of Nevada water bodies. They develop our water quality standards under the Clean Water Act, and they assess the monitoring data collected against those standards to determine whether or not a water body is impaired. Standards developed by this bureau are also used by permit writers in the Bureau of Water Pollution Control and others. This program has the 319 or the non-point source program, and that is largely a grant program. In addition to the work that our own non-point source staff do, we get about $1 million a year that we put out for non-point source projects to help stream bank stabilization, those sorts of things. I'm really excited actually about the box in the middle. We have they restructured a little bit this spring, and they created this bioassessment branch. And the focus of this staff in this new reconfigured piece of the program is shifting the focus on how we look at the health of a water body, which I'm super excited about, actually. To date, our assessments of water quality of a water body have been done based on the chemical water quality data that's been collected over time. And yet, we've been collecting bioassessment data for decades. We've had it in a whole nother database, like the health of benthic macroinvertebrates and things like that in the streams. So now this new branch is going to have this new effort to try to combine the chemical data and the biological data that we have to look more holistically at the health of a water body. So I think you guys have been doing this probably inherently for a long time, and we could probably learn from you. We're going to see where this goes. And I actually do think it could be an interesting opportunity to intersect with tribes where we can look together and learn from you folks about how you view a water body and have for generations, and how we're looking at a water body now, and what are we doing it right? Are there better ways to look at the health of a water body than the way we've been doing it in the past? So I can't wait to see what happens. There's a piece of this program in this bureau that also implements the Tahoe total maximum daily load, or the Tahoe TMDL, that's working to restore the historic clarity of Lake Tahoe down to, what is it, like 100 feet. It's like 60 feet now. It had degraded for quite a while. It has stabilized, and we're hoping to see continued improvement over time. So go ahead. All right. So I mentioned Bureau of Water Pollution Control. They use the standards that the Bureau of Water Quality Planning creates on our water bodies. They regulate discharges to waters of the state through permits and other activities. Waters of the state, very intentionally using that term because it is broader than waters of the US. Waters of the state include every pretty much drop of water within the boundaries of the state of Nevada. So we regulate discharges to groundwater, which I know not all states do, but we absolutely do. It's a fun fact, it used to be illegal to have a rain barrel because that water belongs to the state of Nevada. They changed it, but rain barrels are legal now, but for a long time they weren't. And we protect all waters of the state. In 2021, I think it's important to note that the Nevada legislature amended 3 spots in the water pollution control law to specifically call out interactions between the state and tribes. I think we've been doing these things anyway, and I think we've traditionally done a pretty good job of it. But again, I'm open to feedback from the tribes and open to discussions about how good of a job that we do with interactions with the tribes. You know, we have things like listservs for our permits, and we have some historic consultation protocols for communicating with tribes and things like that. But in 2021, in 3 places, like I said, Indian tribes were specifically added to Nevada law, where one is in the powers of the director. It said the law said the director may advise, consult, and cooperate with other agencies of the state, federal government, other states, interstate agencies, and now it says tribal and Indian tribes, and with other people for the purposes of furthering the water pollution control law. So Indian tribes were inserted there. Affected Indian tribes were also inserted in our permitting law, where the department shall notify each interested person, appropriate government agency, and affected Indian tribe of each complete application for a permit. This is the water pollution control law. Again, I think we have had a pretty good database of tribes and tribal contacts to send permit applications to and permit notices, but now it's codified in law. And then the 3rd spot is that the commission shall provide by regulation an opportunity for each permit applicant, interested agency, city, county, Indian tribe, or irrigation district located downstream from the point of discharge, the opportunity to request a public hearing on a permit application. So I thought it was nice to note that that what we've been doing has been codified, so it will always be done. But again, I'm open to discussion on how well we're doing and if we can improve. So go ahead. All right, now we're orange. We're in the bureaus. So the first one is our Bureau of Mine Regulation and Reclamation. I don't know how much detail I need to go into on our mining program because the tribes in Nevada, I think, are pretty well versed in the mining activity in our state. And we can have probably a whole nother hour-long discussion about mining alone. But generally, there are 3 parts to the mining program. One is the regulation branch, which handles the permitting and operation and inspection of operating mines. As that mining activity starts to come to a close and then it moves into reclamation. As reclamation is finishing their work, either partial reclamation, concurrent reclamation, or complete reclamation of a mine site, then the closure branch takes over. And the closure branch is post-reclamation monitoring and inspections of the site until it is proven to be stable. And then we can all, truly be done with the project. At this point in time, we do have a couple of mines that will actually be in closure in perpetuity because there's going to be long-term monitoring of water associated with the mine forever. But those are the 3 basic processes of mining: regulation, then reclamation, and then closure. So next, thanks. We have the Bureau of Sustainable Materials Management. BSMM regulates hazardous waste permitting as well as hazardous waste facility compliance and inspections and enforcement. They have a solid waste program, and then we have what's called the Sustainable Materials or Recycling program. The recycling effort under BSMM has sort of morphed into this new entity. It's a new nonprofit, I think, called the Partners for a Sustainable Nevada. And that effort is intended to really change the conversation about the way we think about physical materials in a more sustainable way. The way I like to think of it is one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So we're trying to figure out how we can connect different industries where one may be creating what they consider a waste stream, which for another very well could be a product stream. And so, you know, to the extent that we can have feedstock coming into one industry that would otherwise be headed to a landfill or something, I think is fantastic. So it's really taking the concepts of recycling to the next level, focusing on reducing and reusing as opposed to just recycling. This group also, I would note, have awarded some recycling grants to tribes in the past. Our current recycling grant is closing November 17th, so it's not too far away. But the next opportunity for recycling grant applications will open in about May of next year for our 2025 funding. Okay, go ahead. Next, we have our Bureau of Corrective Actions, and then also there's actually two bureaus on this slide because one of them is just a box, which is the Bureau of Industrial Site Cleanup. It's just a box because it doesn't really have any branches. It's got like 5 people in it. The Bureau of Corrective Actions is really a bureau that covers a tremendous number of sort of like little mini programs that all have some sort of role in cleanup and restoration of the land and putting it back into productive use. Our Superfund program largely works alongside EPA because we're not delegated the Superfund program in Nevada, but it's also where our brownfields program lies. Underground storage tanks and other chemical cleanups are in this program, as well as our oversight of cleanups being conducted by the Department of Defense for military bases, of which we have a number of them in the state. And we also have the Abandoned Mine Lands program in here. It's here because the Bureau of Mine Regulation and Reclamation works on facilities that operate or have operated subsequent to the 1989 mining law. So any abandoned mine lands are what we call pre-reg. They existed prior to 1989 or closed prior to 1989 and have been abandoned, and then they're in this cleanup program that's separate from the mining program. The Rio Tinto site in Northern Nevada is an example of an AML, as is the Anaconda site that a lot of people are familiar with. So, the other little box down there with the small 5 people is our Bureau of Industrial Site Cleanup. They are just out of our Las Vegas office, and they are largely focused on cleanup of a facility that originated during World War II when there was the manufacture of magnesium. And it was put in Nevada because of the Hoover Dam and the power source that they had there. So it ended up being a very large site with a very large cleanup. And so eventually this Bureau of Industrial Site Cleanup was created to handle our environmental response trust with the federal government. And then they also do a couple other things. There's a property called the Three Kids Mine in Henderson that they're about to start cleanup with. We're working on the record of decision and getting underway with that cleanup here, hopefully early next year. Go ahead. And then we have one other tiny program, again, with like 5 or 6 people. So it really doesn't have branches either. It's just a box. But that's our Bureau of Federal Facilities. Some folks know the work that they do as the historical name of the Nevada Test Site. It's now known as the Nevada National Security Site. There are a few other sites in Nevada that fall under the Department of Energy and the Bureau of Federal Facilities. But this bureau provides programmatic and regulatory oversight of the Department of Energy's environmental restoration and waste management programs within the state of Nevada. And that's the Sedan crater. It's pretty cool. At least as part of Nevada's history. It's like you visit the site and you see these things that you've learned about in U.S. history class as a child. You're like, whoa, this is really here. It's pretty wild. I haven't worked a lot with BFF in my tenure with NDEP, so I'm coming up to speed, but I understand from the bureau chief that there are a number of tribes in that sort of southern central area of Nevada that do interact with our Bureau of Federal Facilities and the Department of Energy. So with that, go ahead. I'm happy to take questions. And we have about 10 minutes, I think.
We do have pretty much exactly 10 minutes. So there's a few questions online that I was going to ask first while you all think of questions. The first one was, what agencies are responsible for deciding if a proposed project is okay for the community?
So, yeah, the land use decision discussion that we had early on at the beginning. So if it's a federal project or a project located on federal lands, then, then we are talking about, the Bureau of Land Management or the U.S. Forest Service, those sorts of entities that are able to make decisions about land uses on their property. Similar with private landowners. In Nevada, many of you may know that the land status is what we call checkerboarded, where it's like a section with federal land ownership and a section with private land ownership. And so there's often a mix of land ownership. But so in those cases, it would be, a cooperation between the landowners, as well as then, getting into the EIS process and then the land use decisions that come out of NEPA.
The other question that was in here was, can you talk about the process for tribes to apply for non-point source project funding from NDEP?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So our annual grant cycle starts in August, I believe, when they send out the notice of funding opportunity. And I will find out exactly how that notice occurs and share that information through Cliff. I know that they have a listserv that they send out information to when that notice of funding opportunity goes live. But who's on that listserv and if they've self-selected and signed up for it might be a question. On our main webpage, we do have, if you go to the main page and scroll down a little bit, there's an opportunity for you to, like with one click, you can see all the different listservs that people can sign up for, that NDEP uses to communicate with our regulated community, our stakeholders, our interested parties. Tribes can certainly sign up there. And the other thing that I haven't talked about today is the new collaboration policy that was written by the Nevada Indian Commission. That is a new policy to help states and tribes collaborate. And so we're all still learning about that new policy that Nevada Indian Commission has put forth, and what it may do to change some of the ways we reach out to tribes for things, maybe even like these grant opportunities. So I'm still digesting the document. I know the other administrators in DCNR are doing the same. Cliff is digesting it because I think he's been assigned the responsibility to train on it.
I was just thinking about that because state land has not a tribal liaison, but he acts like a tribal liaison, and he's leaving. Scott Carey is leaving, and he's been kind of my communication regarding a lot of things. And so the question is, because right now Dominique Echoyne is like the DCNR tribal liaison. I work for NDEP as a tribal liaison, and but state lands, I think, kind of should have its own liaison, because the bill says that each department has a liaison, but there's a lot of divisions that need them because they work. Nevada Rural Health comes to mind. A lot of their little divisions need liaisons because they work so much with them. So we're trying to iron that out still. But within Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, which has NDEP, Water Resources Board, SHPO, maybe SHPO would need a tribal liaison. That'd be nice. So we're trying to iron that out still. I don't know who's going to make this determination. And then part of it also is that these employees that will be working with tribes are going to get training, cultural sensitivity type training, I believe. And there's like a curriculum that they're drawing out, and the funding for that, I think, is an issue they're trying to iron out. and then who gets trained, and then concerns about sustainability to do it. You know, you train someone and they leave. Because whether you know it or not, NDEP, they are short a lot of employees. Almost every meeting begins with filling these open positions. So there's a concern state level that we can train somebody to be a liaison, but they'll move on because they go to other places because NDEP is not like working for a multi-billionaire. You don't make that much money, I guess.
Yeah. And I would note, you know, when we talk about those sorts of official documents for official, collaboration and communication between this and the state of Nevada and tribes, that's all well and good about making sure that we have good, solid protocols in place for official work that we would be doing together and communications that we would have. But in my mind, there's absolutely nothing stopping staff of the tribes and staff of NDEP from communicating whenever you need to. So, if you want to reach out to staff to find out more about what makes a good 319 non-point source grant application, by all means, reach out to the staff. If you would like to be part of our listservs for just general announcements on permits or regulations or whatever the listserv might address, by all means do. Again, it doesn't at all replace the official communications protocols and policies. But in my mind, the more we talk, the better we'll understand each other and the easier things will be. So I think there's two levels of communication between the state and the tribe, the official level and then the getting things done level. And I'm happy to participate in the getting things done level whenever we need to. She's got a mic.
Here.
Yeah, I feel like adding something. And you touched upon it regarding a 30-day comment period and consultation. We have protocols in place, but I've been waiting for these things to get done. But if I know the state, if you engage with them early and you let them know through me or directly with the state, they're really getting good with working and extending out comment periods, especially regarding permits, because state does a lot of permitting. And I would just say in Nevada, at least for tribes, don't assume that they're not going to extend it out. If you communicate through my program or through directly with the state, we can work something out often, especially if it's pre-scoping or it's like they're not far along in the process. Usually, even though statutes and codes mean things, they make exceptions.
Thanks, Cliff. You're spot on. So, I'm really happy we've got a bunch of people online, and I'm glad they engaged in questions. We don't have a whole lot of tribal representatives in the room, but it's nice to see some faces, and I'm happy for everyone that got involved today. And I'm early in my administratorship, if that's a word, and I'm really looking forward to continue to learn more about the tribes that we work with. I did spend a lot of time at NDEP, 8 years of my career in the drinking water program, where, like we talked about, there's not a lot of overlap with tribal government. And so, me learning about interacting with tribes and what you want me to know, what we need you to know, it's all evolving for me. And thankfully I'm a curious sort of person, and I'm really open. And I'm happy to have conversations whenever we can. So. I'm a nerd, Cliff says. In a loving way, I know. So, are there any more questions online?
There's not. Were there by chance any in the room? You're basically right on time. I think a minute early if you want to end now.
All right. Thank you.
I was in the planning meeting for a session tomorrow, and I'm like, what time is it? Oh my God! I was so bad.
Quite all right.
No problem.
Hi, I'm Wayne James. I'm the director of the laboratory. So I was being presentation to sign with others. The laboratory regions. That's great. Yeah, I'm still profit officer. After the total work, it's still very important. Most people don't understand. I've been on all of the state directors and city.
Oh, okay.
We all
How's
California? We all
California, waste.
Their latest on
Okay, I wanted to go and see how easy it was.
and they brought that on delays on their water delays on the program or giving a presentation. Exactly. And then along those lines, to right vision is also something that we see.
And I did through the constitutional.